Channel's Weekend Review. The consequences, or lack thereof, for these beatings caught on camera. An Arab-Israeli film star tells his story. This Tony Award-nominated actor dishes, and more of the Jewish news that's changing your world right now in this episode of the Weekend Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Weekend Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. The Israeli policeman caught on video beating an IDF soldier of Ethiopian descent will not face criminal charges. The beating of Damas Pakada touched off a series of protests and a nationwide discussion regarding the treatment of so-called Ethiopian Jews amid questions about racism at various levels of Israeli society. Pakada told Israeli newspaper Yediot Ahronot on Sunday night, quote, "I'm deeply disappointed by the law enforcement bodies and in general by the policeman and the Attorney General. The decision of whether to prosecute the policeman ultimately landed with Attorney General Yehuda Weinstein. Israel's Justice Ministry released a statement declaring that the police officers behaved, quote, impeccably and described the sequence of events this way. After the policeman asked the soldier repeatedly to leave the site because of a suspicious package nearby, and the soldier refused and pushed the policeman used force to remove the soldier. In response, the soldier punched the policeman, and in return, the policeman punched the soldier." The Justice Ministry's statement seems to contradict entirely the video evidence, which shows the police officer repeatedly pushing and shoving Pakada while the soldier's hands remain on his bicycle before Pakada ever pushes or hits the police officer in return. Pakada's lawyer has said he'll appeal the decision. Pakada has filed a lawsuit seeking approximately $100,000 in damages. Another case that has made headlines recently is the beating of an unarmed Palestinian man by IDF soldiers that was also caught on video. The IDF had announced an investigation into the incident, but has now quickly tried and convicted 4 soldiers. The harshest punishment doled out to 2 of the soldiers is that they may not leave their bases for the weekend for the next 30 days. The IDF said in a statement that the soldiers' actions, quote, was inconsistent with the expected conduct of IDF soldiers when operating in crowd control situations. The beaten man, identified in some reports as Shadi al-Ghabbashy, was participating in a protest in the Palestinian refugee camp of Jala Zone. Meanwhile, in New York City, the Muslim man who saved 15 Jewish shoppers during an attack on a kosher grocery store in Paris this summer was honored by Mayor Bill de Blasio. De Blasio declared the man, Lassana Bathily, a, quote, real hero who stood up to protect human life even when his own life is in danger. Bathily was also honored by the American Jewish Committee, which gave him its Moral Courage Award. Moving on, Rebecca Honig-Friedman spoke with the Arab-Israeli star of an Israeli film that's now making the rounds here in the States. Here's her report.
לפעמים אני שוכח שאתה ערבי.
כן, האמת שגם אני.
אל תדאג, תמיד יהיה מישהו שיזכיר לך את זה.
כן, אה?
The star of the new Israeli film, A Borrowed Identity, 25-year-old Arab-Israeli actor Tafiq Barhoum, doesn't like labels.
It's weird to me, the question when people ask me who you are. To be accurate, I need to say I'm a Palestinian living inside of Israel. That's, to be accurate, to be, let's say, in touch of what other people calls reality. But to me, reality is not that, because I don't see Israel, I don't see Palestinian.
Directed by acclaimed Israeli filmmaker Eran Riklis and adapted from Arab-Israeli author Sayed Kashua's autobiographical novels, A Borrowed Identity follows Barhoum's character Ayad through adolescence as he struggles to make his way as an Arab in Israel during the 1980s and 90s. Barhoum spoke with TJC the morning after his film's New York premiere at the JCC in Manhattan.
This is the conflict through children's eyes. Is a Palestinian living inside of Israel? He was born and raised in a small village, and at a certain age he gets a chance to get to a boarding school, and we kind of see his journey into trying to blend in to the Israeli society.
That's also a general description of Barhoum's own life story, which coincidentally closely mimics that of his character, even down to an illicit teenage love affair. In the film, Ayad falls in love with his Jewish classmate Naomi, but they're forced to keep their relationship secret because an Arab dating a Jew is so controversial. In real life, some 20 years after the film is set, Barhoum also had a relationship with a Jewish girl he met while attending an Israeli boarding school, a relationship he said was still just as controversial.
We had quite a long run for 2 years, but we had to not tell anybody, and when it's gone out, it's gone bad.
But dating is just one example of how Ayad must navigate a complex social identity. Educated in an elite Israeli boarding school and with Jewish friends, he finds he can often pass as a Jewish Israeli. But that access has its limits when various authorities find out he is an Arab, putting certain social and economic opportunities, frustratingly, just outside of his grasp. That too has been Barhoum's experience.
Know Hebrew so much that nobody knows that I'm an Arab, so I move fastly in Israel, Mostly nobody stops me. Until they stop me and they understand that I'm an Arab. And then they don't believe me that I'm an Arab, and then there's like 3 hours on investigations. Who's that person?
For more on A Borrowed Identity and its star, Tafiq Barhoum, watch the full broadcast version of The Week in Review.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next, Meredith Gansman interviewed Tony Award-nominated actor Brandon Aronowitz in a segment for our theater show, Row J.
For Tony Award nominee Brandon Aronowitz, bringing the new Tony Award-winning musical, An American in Paris, to Broadway has been...
It's wonderful, it's marvelous. It's paradise, really.
That is in part because of the music by George and Ira Gershwin, which has always been close to Aronowitz.
My family took a family vacation to Wyoming, and I was all about the hiking and seeing moose and bears. But my dad made sure that we went and saw the Wyoming Symphony play a night of Gershwin. You know what I mean? This was something where we were really giving respect and due to Gershwin's symphony pieces, which are stunning.
Yeah.
And are just as moving as his music that he wrote with Ira.
I caught up with Aronowitz at Jacques Torres Chocolate, the official chocolate sponsor of An American in Paris, which takes audiences to Paris immediately after the end of World War II. Aronowitz plays Adam Hochberg, an American Jew and injured vet who meets fellow GI Jerry Mulligan, and Parisian Henri Burrell. The character brings him closer to his own family's history, he says.
I had family in the Holocaust, that dealt with all of that. And I feel like this brings me closer to my roots in that I'm finally doing something that I can do that is important.
Ballet Moves this beautiful romantic story of all three men who seek the heart of ballet dancer Lise Desain. And although Aronowitz's character dances in only one number in the musical, he says his dance skills have greatly improved.
My feet are so much better than they were before.
Really?
My turnout, my point, I've been working on it. It'll never be acceptable. I will never be in New York City Ballet.
Though so much dancing surely works up an appetite, and Aronowitz and I were in the right place to be hungry.
Ravenous, appetite.
Ravenous and hungry. Gonna get you some chocolate? We are in Jacques Torres.
Please, I was born ready to eat some chocolate. Let's do it.
While we noshed, we discussed developing the new musical, which included an out-of-town run in Paris.
You know, having not only just being there and being a Jewish American in Paris, but being in like sort of a high-profile, project that was going to get a lot of attention. Being the Jew was nerve-wracking. I was really worried, but it was a non-issue.
You can see Brandon Aronowitz in An American in Paris now at the Palace Theater. For more on Brandon Aronowitz in An American in Paris, tune into the full broadcast version of The Week in Review and Row J.
Thank you, Meredith. Finally, this week on Up Close, when children are subjected to violence and more, what are we to do about it? One of the most horrible single events in recent memory was the killing of 77 people, including dozens of children, in a bombing and attack in Norway in 2011. Why did Anders Breivik decide to kill all those people, and what lessons is Norway trying to draw from it? Åsne Seierstad finds out in One of Us the story of Anders Breivik and the massacre in Norway. Of course, most of the violence and difficulty children face is on a much smaller scale, but this kind of activity is also far more widespread, and adults are often a large part of the problem. New York Times Magazine staff writer Emily Bazelon discusses that in Sticks and Stones, Defeating the Culture of Bullying and Rediscovering the Power of Character and Empathy. Here are some of the highlights from my interview with Åsne Seierstad. The story of Anders Breivik is something that if people don't remember his name, they know instantly when you just say, well, he was the guy who shot up that summer camp in Norway and killed many dozens of children. But what you're trying to do here is to tell the story from what it means within Norway. And here in America and broadly around the world, we all have our own lens that we view it through, but very few of us actually have a real sense of what it means, what it meant domestically. And so what do you think we're missing on the most basic level?
I don't know what's missing, but what I did was to try to find out what happened. And I think that is important to find out the details, to find out the chronology of the events, to find out what made him, who were the kids on the island. And because the more you know, the easier you can come also to terms with it or deal with it. Because with such a terrible massacre as that, if you don't find out really what happened, there will be lots of myths coming out and already rumors and things that are not accurate.
When you tell this story with so much detail, to me, the most depressing part of it, of all this detail about his life, was how much he could have been many other people.
Was a well-behaved boy. He did fairly well in school, and he tried to adapt. He tried to find his gang, his people, his crowd, and somewhere to belong. That was like his search in life, always to try to find a place to belong, because he did not have a family. I think that is an important factor, the fact that he didn't have any support from home.
But so do countless people.
Yeah, and exactly, it's important. There's not one single explanation or one single factor. But when you say there might be a million people like him, I don't really think so, because it's the combination of these factors that made him.
Primarily, if you summed up his life, I think the word that stands out most is failure. Right? That he just was a guy who couldn't get anything right, and really didn't have any idea what he was doing. When you're going through then finding these multiple episodes of failure, these successive episodes of failure, what is speaking out to you?
This failure on a kind of say high level. He has everything he needs to succeed. He's good at school, but then because he wants to get rich quickly, he drops out. Not that he doesn't do his homework, but he decides not to finish high school because he thinks this is the time to buy shares. And then he's successful, as you say, for a couple of years, and then he loses everything. And then same when he wants to be a member of the Progress Party or do a career there, they don't really trust enough in him that they will, you're gonna be one of our candidates. But very often he's not rejected in the sense that you're not allowed to stay with us, but he's not the success that he sees himself as that he wants. So I think that's important, like on a more personal, psychological level. I think we also should not forget his father, the fact that the father left him when he was 1, and he said to friends like, oh, if I once did something really great, maybe my father will see me.
You can see the full episode of Up Close on the Jewish channel on cable. You can also listen to the full audio of Up Close as a podcast, available on iTunes or in your favorite podcast player. That's all for this week. From all of us here at the Jewish channel, be well. The Jewish channel is available on cable. Time Warner Cable Channel 1640, IOUPLink Channel 505, RCN Channel 268, Cox Cable Channel 1, Bright House Channel 330, Verizon Fios Channel 900, and on Comcast on the on-demand menu on premium channels. For more information, visit tjctv.com.